What's up, guys, and welcome back to From a Fan's Eye View. I'm Justin, or, as some of you have pointed out, Luka Doncic's twin. But I think I'm a little better looking than him. He might have a little more money than me, but that's neither here nor there, you know what I'm saying? Let's get on today's topic, which is the Golden State Warriors and how their dynasty has, quote-unquote, fallen off, or that's what a lot of people perceive it to have happened. And, you know, Steph Curry, to his credit, I think just hit a game winner tonight as I'm recording this intro, so maybe not the best time to talk about them falling off, but before we get to them falling off or what seems to be the end of the Warriors dynasty, let's throw it over to Sam, and he can tell us about how the Warriors created one of the greatest teams of all time.
The Warriors dynasty has been one of the greatest displays of dominance we've seen since the Tim Duncan-led San Antonio Spurs or even the Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal-led Lakers. The Warriors took the mid-2010s by storm. Some of the greatest players of our time and of all time in general played for this Warriors team during their dominant stretch. Players like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green, just to name a few. But as we sit here today and look at the current day Warriors, we see that they're just barely sitting at a 500 record. So what's happened? Well, let's take a long journey back to the 2009 draft class, where we see a special point guard who would soon become the leader and superstar that this team needed. Back in 2008, the Warriors were led by Steven Jackson, Jamal Crawford, and Monte Ellis. They finished with a 29-53 record, and with the 2009 draft up and coming, they possessed a 7th round pick in the first round of the draft. Now, there were some great players in this draft at the time. Some of them ended up being great picks like Blake Griffin, James Harden, and DeMar DeRozan. But one point guard would eventually stand amongst the rest. Steph Curry was selected with the 7th overall pick. And if you're a Minnesota fan, you already know the two guards selected before Curry, Rubio and Flynn. Sorry, but neither of you guys would pan out the way Curry did. But little did this Warriors club know that this young guard would soon become their franchise cornerstone. Curry put up a fantastic rookie season. Averaging 17 points, 6 assists, and almost 2 steals a game, he ended the season in second in voting for Rookie of the Year. He was a great bright side of this Warriors club, and over the next 2 years, they would soon take 2 more players that would fit alongside Curry in the best ways possible. In 2011, the Warriors had the 11th overall pick in the first round, and they selected Klay Thompson. Klay had himself a solid rookie year as well, coming off the bench and averaging 12.5 points on 41% shooting from 3. Another solid piece of this rebuilding squad. The year after, deep in the second round of the draft, the Warriors found themselves a forward in Draymond Green. At the time, he didn't seem like much. An undersized power forward who was said to have great physicals, a strong rebounder, solid passer, and be a solid defensive player, according to a scouting report from the draft. But these were the 3 pieces that would soon become the trio that would dominate the league for years to come. In 2012-2013 season, they went from being the 4th place team in the Pacific to the 2nd place team with a 47-35 record. The Curry effect was in play, making huge strides in his scoring from previous years, jumping from 15 points to 23, shooting an otherworldly 45% from 3 on almost 8 attempts per game. Klay was pushing himself to being one of the best catch-and-shoot players in the league, making a 4-point jump in his averages while shooting 40% from 3 himself. They made the playoffs for the first time since the 06-07 season. They would eliminate Denver in the first round, but then fall to the Spurs, who would eventually meet and lose to Miami in the finals. The spark was there, and it was only growing bigger. Curry was only getting better. Klay was becoming an elite two-way player, becoming one of, if not the best spot-up shooter in the league, and Draymond was starting to come into his own. Curry was selected to his first All-Star game, putting up terrific numbers, 24 points, 8.5 assists, and shooting 42% from 3. Klay matching him in the shooting department while averaging 18 himself, and Draymond was starting to come into his own, putting up a solid 6 points, 5 boards, and a steal and a block in each contest. They would make playoffs again with their 51-31 record, but would end things quickly by Los Angeles Clippers in the first round. But the true start to this dynasty begins here. The 2014-2015 season started with a notable coaching change in Steve Kerr. The season was filled with excitement for this team. Curry was shooting the ball like no one had ever seen. 24 points, 7.7 assists, while shooting 44% from 3 on 8 attempts per game. Klay was on the rise, continuing to improve and become Curry's partner in crime. The Splash Bros, as they would dub the name. These two were elite shooters and were being accompanied perfectly by their defensive-minded power forward, Draymond Green. Green was putting up great numbers alongside the Splash Bros, averaging 12 points, 4 assists, 8 rebounds, and averaging 1.5 blocks and steals per game. Curry and Klay together became all-stars, and with the unexpected power of these three players, with a solid squad built around them, they led their team to being the best in the West. Curry was becoming one of the league's best players, and for that season, he was. He was named the MVP of the league and named All-NBA First Team. Draymond was given an All-NBA First Defensive Team and second in voting in the Defensive Player of the Year award. And Klay was given an All-NBA Third Team as well. And the dominance continued through playoffs. No team was matched for this Warriors team. The Pelicans swept Memphis down in 6. Houston couldn't give them more than 5 games. And the matchup everyone was so excited to see was Curry versus LeBron. A fantastic display of basketball and entertainment all around led to a Warriors' first championship and many to come. A 4-2 series win led by Steph Curry averaging 28 points and 6 assists per game. And the future was only brighter. And in the next season, the dominance continued. They had the best season ever recorded in NBA history since the Bulls with Jordan. They lost 9 total games. This team would win 7 to 8 straight before taking another loss, and they started off the year winning 24 straight. They started 24-0, and it seemed like the success was just going to continue to snowball. They went into playoffs. Houston, you had a problem. Portland blazed right by them, and the Thunder, well, they put up a notorious fight, taking this team to 7 games. Westbrook and Durant couldn't finish the job, and after having a 3-1 series lead, they choked it.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
And once again, it was Curry versus LeBron. But this time, it was different. They took a 3-1 series lead, and for the first time ever in finals history, a team came back. LeBron wasn't going to have it this time. He took the Warriors down and completed the greatest comeback in NBA history. But just because LeBron spoiled them this time didn't mean it was going to happen again. And the next season, one of the greatest scorers of our generation decided to take his talent to the Golden State Warriors. And that was Kevin Durant. That's right, the player that got beat on his own 3-1 lead by the Warriors decided to go and join the team that beat him. Some say this was a really soft move, but despite that, this team was a super team now. Absolutely unreal talent across the board. This team was unfair, and they didn't have a greater season compared to the last season in terms of record, but the dominance was just as much. They went to the finals again, and LeBron and Kyrie were just no match. Durant claimed his first championship and his first finals MVP, and in the next year, they decided to do it again. LeBron, again without Kyrie, had to face this Warriors club, but it was just too dominant. No one had seen this type of dominance in playoffs before. And Durant, again, with his second championship and another finals MVP, graced Golden State with another championship. 3 championships in 4 years. This team was looking unstoppable. Fortunately for NBA fans, the next year, one of the greatest single seasons we've ever seen out of a player ended up beating this club in the finals. Now, granted, this Warriors club was ridden with injuries going into the finals, but Kawhi Leonard stopped this team from getting their 3rd championship in a row. After this, Durant left the club and left the same 3 players who had already won a championship back to themselves again. But what happened after this point? Well, I'll let Justin take over from here.
As I mentioned, the Golden State Warriors had been in the finals 5 straight years. This was not a franchise accustomed to losing or missing the playoffs. However, after losing to the Raptors, they would find out very quickly that missing the playoffs is not as uncommon as they thought. That offseason, they lost Kevin Durant and Andre Iguodala. Iguodala obviously being slightly less important, but Durant left in a sign-and trade for the Brooklyn Nets, where the Warriors did manage to acquire all-star guard D'Angelo Russell. So that was a nice pickup, but a lot of people wondered, where is a point guard going to fit in this guard-heavy team already? The answer would soon happen. After Russell had a decent start to the year, he would be traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves for former #1 overall pick Andrew Wiggins at the trade deadline. Now again, this is a team that made the playoffs, finals for that matter, 5 straight years. They had some big hopes for the year. They got off to a 4-16 start, however. That's the worst start since 2000. Now, obviously, it's not just because they fell off or became bad. Injuries were a big part of this. Klay Thompson missed the entire regular season with an ACL tear he suffered in the previous finals. Steph Curry got injured in October, and that required surgery, so he missed a lot of the games. He only played 5 out of the 65 games. And when they lost to the Dallas Mavericks, they failed to reach 50 wins for the first time in forever. Maybe saving the Warriors from further embarrassment, the COVID-19 pandemic caused the season to be officially suspended by league officials following the games on March 11th after Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19. As well known, the NBA bubble then occurred, in which 22 teams resumed play. The Warriors, with the Western Conference's and league's worst overall record at the time, was not selected, effectively ending their season and having them the worst record in the entire league for the first time in franchise history. So quite a big drop-off for a team that was so elite for so long. After last season's abysmal record of 15-50, the Warriors entered the 2020-2021 season with championship aspirations once again. The season started in mid-December thanks to the pandemic, but the NBA figured out a way around that. The Warriors had Steph Curry back fully healthy. They were without guard Klay Thompson for the remainder of the season with his Achilles injury, but having Steph Curry back fully healthy was a bonus, and they had the second overall pick, in which they took Memphis center James Wiseman. Now, Wiseman did not exactly turn out how they hoped, especially being sandwiched in between Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball. But the Warriors flirted with about 500 throughout the whole season, but then in May, they went 8-1 just before the playoffs, and people thought, all right, the Warriors are dangerous. They ended up getting the 8th seed in the NBA, which no longer guarantees them a playoff berth. They had to then play in the play-in tournament, in which they lost both their games. So for the second straight season, the Golden State Warriors missed the playoffs. And at this point, people are starting to wonder, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where the Warriors fall off. Maybe this is the end of the dynasty. Those hoping for the end of the Warriors dynasty would have to wait a little bit longer, as in the 2021-2022 season, the Warriors turned things around. This season was full of highs and overall good vibes for the Warriors, as they finished with a record of 53-29. Steph Curry ended up becoming the all-time leader for most threes made in NBA history, surpassing Ray Allen's total. Klay Thompson came back after missing the past 2 seasons. He came in and dropped 17 points on January 9th against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Andrew Wiggins, who they acquired from the Timberwolves in the trade with D'Angelo Russell, and Draymond Green were both named NBA All-Stars, along with Stephen Curry. Green, however, could not play due to being injured, but still, he had a good enough season to be selected as an All-Star. In that All-Star game, Steph Curry scored 50 points, set numerous All-Star game records, and became the All-Star game MVP. The Warriors started this season 41-13. They were playing incredible, then had a bit of an injury plague stretch going 7-16, but winning the final 5 games. They clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2018-2019, and suddenly things were looking up. It looked like the Warriors of old, with Thompson, Curry, and Green running the show, and Andrew Wiggins being one of the best seasons he's had in his entire career. The Warriors had a difficult run in the playoffs, but it didn't look that hard. The Warriors defeated the Denver Nuggets in the first round in 5. In the second round, they upset the Grizzlies in 6 games. Then they went on to defeat the Mavericks in 5 games, winning the Western Conference for the 7th time in their history and the 6th time in the last 8 years. So the Golden State Warriors fall off seemed greatly exaggerated, right? It was kind of like that meme where like, my death was greatly exaggerated. Then they ran into the Boston Celtics. This was a rematch of the 1964 NBA Finals, in which the Celtics defeated the San Francisco Warriors in 5 games. However, this would not be the case, as the Warriors defeated the Celtics in 4-2 to win their 4th championship in 8 years, 7th overall. So suddenly the Warriors dynasty was back. Klay Thompson looked good, Steph Curry looked good, the whole team looked good. New draft pick Jonathan Kuminga played decent minutes, and Moses Moody was good as well. However, the 2022-2023 season saw the beginning of the end for the Warriors, where they struggled mightily throughout the season. They had one of the worst records on the road, but simultaneously having one of the best at home. This left people very divided on them. Were they good? Were they bad? Did they have a chance in the playoffs? Nobody was really sure. They had a winning record for the 10th time in 11 seasons and clinched the 6th seed in the playoffs. So a decent selection in the Western Conference. And in the first round of the playoffs, they upset the Sacramento Kings in 7 games. But they lost to the 7th seed Los Angeles Lakers in 6 games in the next round. So a middle of the pack exit for the Warriors had people unsure on how to feel. This season, you could also see the stretch fractures appearing in this Warriors team. Stephen Curry was ejected for throwing his mouthpiece earlier in the season. Draymond Green was ejected this year for stomping on the chest of Sabonis. Their draft was unimpressive, with Patrick Baldwin Jr. being the first round pick they had. But overall, it was just a stressful season, going 33-8 at home, but 11-30 on the road. Now, the Golden State Warriors are on, as Twitter has called it, fraud watch. They are now exactly at the 500 mark for their record, and people are beginning to say this team doesn't have what it takes. They're currently the 11th seed in the Western Conference, so they would not be in the playoffs if they started today. And to make matters worse, they're the most expensive team in the league. They can't maintain their current roster, nor maybe do they want to. Klay Thompson appears to just not have it anymore. Draymond Green is spiraling out of control. Steph Curry is clearly frustrated. This is a team that has so much star power, it's hard to put them away, but at the same time, they're just not quite what they were. Klay Thompson, for lack of a better argument, was one of the better players that defined this generation. Now, he's obviously not an unbelievable superstar that's going to give you championship no matter where you put him, but so many teams had a second guy that was nowhere near Klay Thompson's level. Klay Thompson, in his prime, was probably the perfect second fiddle to a star the league has ever seen since Scottie Pippen, maybe? I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take. But after tearing his Achilles and his ACL, he had a decent season, but I think the whole world can tell he's just not the same guy. If we take a look at his game since January 24th, he went 5 of 10 from 3, 2 of 7, 6 of 17, 2 for 9, 2 for 13, 0 for 3, and 1 for 6. He's shooting 37% on the year, which is not bad by any stretch, but it's not good for Klay Thompson. He's also shooting only 41% from the field and only 17 points a game. Those are all his lowest numbers since his second year in the league. Klay is clearly just not the same guy, and he's clearly upset by it right now. He said even in interviews, "Of course, it frustrates me. You think I'm just gonna chill? I'm freaking competitive, man. At the end of the day, I'm one of the most competitive people to put this uniform on." But he just doesn't have what it takes to be that competitive guy anymore, and I think he understands that. Then there's Draymond Green, where Klay Thompson knows he's struggling, he's trying to find his way out of it. Draymond Green is just falling deeper and deeper into the hole he built himself over his career of being a hothead. He already got suspended earlier this year for choking Rudy Gobert. He punches and kicks people. He was suspended by the NBA indefinitely to be reinstated later in the season. It's just not a good look on him. He's become somewhat of a sore loser. Right now, after watching the Warriors dominate the league for so long, we're left to observe a very slowly sinking ship. That's the best way I can think to describe it. This is a team with quite a bit of talent, right? And like we mentioned, they're the highest payroll in the league. And while they're at 500 and only one spot out of the play-in tournament, it just doesn't feel like they have it anymore. Now, obviously, you don't want to go against Steph Curry in the playoffs. That's never an ideal situation, but I don't think too many teams are worried about Klay Thompson or Draymond Green or Andrew Wiggins or Chris Paul. The Warriors just simply don't have it anymore. It's a ship that is slowly but surely sinking. And I think we have witnessed the end of the Warriors dynasty. I don't think they will end up going back to the playoffs this season. I don't think they'll win an NBA championship in soon-to-be time. And I think that Steph Curry is reaching the twilight of his NBA career. He's going to have so many good years left because he's a shooter, but how many of those are with the Warriors and how many more of those years do the Warriors capitalize on remains to be seen, but I remain doubtful.
Well, guys, thank you for watching this week's video. If you like our content and you're new to the channel, please hit that like, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to leave a comment down below and let us know what you guys think of today's video. But from me and Justin, thank you guys so much for watching our videos, and we'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.